Today on the Daniel Baldwin Show, viewer mail and Trump gets warned by the UN. Coming at you right now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. Let's get right to viewer mail. This is John Moss of Seaford, New York, and he has this to say. Hey DB, love your show. Thank you, John. Thank you very much for watching. Can you give me what's going on about Palm Beach Pete? Yeah, I read about this guy, and let's start off first with the obvious. This guy looks a lot like Jeffrey Epstein. He really does, okay? So, like most people, there's always a doppelganger. There's somebody out there that looks like you. How my family at different angles looks quite a bit alike, where you could easily mistake one for the other. But supposedly now this guy, the information that I think that John is talking about, I dug up. YouTube journalist reveals the identity of Palm Beach Pete by digging into records at a particular plastic surgery clinic in Miami. So this guy thought it was a little more than coincidence at how much they looked alike. And so he started taking anomalies of known pictures of Epstein and this Palm Beach Pete guy. And there's a couple of things, I mean, when you look at it, unless the pictures of Palm Beach Pete are AI or generated or something's changed on them, which it doesn't look like they are. They don't have some of the classic features, and people have confirmed that is his face. So there's one anomaly on right here by his mouth that looks, and you look at it and you go, wow, that's exactly the same. Exactly the same. His forehead pattern, although is a little subdued on Palm Beach Pete, it matches. That part didn't bother me either. Again, and this is that thing, and today they can fake stuff so easy. But they showed a picture of him like this, where you see his bottom teeth. And they matched that up of known pictures of Epstein's. And I have to tell you, each tooth was in exactly, one was a little forward, one was a little back, one was twisted. It was exactly the same as the known pictures of Epstein's mouth. When I saw that, because I know forensically, having played a homicide detective on television before, I know a lot of what they do with biting. When they find a body and the body is bitten, they use that, to find people guilty because your bite is very unique, and all these the marks that it leaves on a victim. So, I looked at all that and I thought, wow, that is really scary. I mean, it couldn't be the same bite stuff. It couldn't be the same marks. Now, again, are those doctored, John? I don't know. But when I look at some of the conspiracy theories that go out there, I think sometimes rather than try to hide it, rather than try to make it ridiculously coincidental, or, let me give you an example. Now that we're going up to the moon again after 50, 60 years almost of not doing so. They talk about the Challenger astronauts. That was a good one. And they showed that there are a number of, every one of the Challenger astronauts' names, there's another person. Now, imagine having someone that looks quite a bit like you or exactly like you. But there's one that's a Harvard professor that has the same exact name. There are multiple ones. There's one of them was up in Wisconsin, Schofield, I think it was. He's was a professor at the University of Wisconsin. He has the same name. He looks exactly like a twin, like the guy. And they're saying, yeah, no, he's not. One woman was a Harvard professor, and she ran away from the reporters when they were asking her. I mean, is it possible that they faked the Challenger accident? And then if they did, why would they do that? So, I mean, I understand the Apollo astronauts. They were trying to scare the crap out of our enemies and let them think that we could actually land on the moon and lob, rockets and bombs and stuff from outer space at them, and they'd be defenseless. And this was this big thing during the Cold War when the nuclear proliferation was out of control, and blah, 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 blah. It gets really deep in the theories why they do it. And NASA's a government agency. Do they control these fake things that go on? And I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I was on top of this guy Epstein from the very beginning. And when they said that he went to Rikers Island and that he committed suicide, I laughed immediately. I said, and I'm on record saying this, Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide on Rikers Island. That didn't happen. And I don't say it anymore like, what are you kidding me? I just say it as calm as can be. Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide on Rikers Island. That didn't happen. So in that blank moment of tape that happens when they're changing it over at night or something, that part makes me laugh because, remember there's a group of people that work for the CIA or the federal government or Zod or the org or Big Brother or, whoever they are, okay? There's a they. And they decided this was the best idea to come out with. So they said this story about how, they turn the juice off or they turn the tape off that covers that cell. And in that hour's time that they turn it off every night, by the way, every night a maximum security jail in New York City where some of the roughest, toughest, worst criminals of all, they just turn the camera off. They don't have a backup system. Another camera can run that requires them to turn it off. Nowhere else in the world, even the cameras that I have on my house outside, those don't have to go off. They have to be recharged, but they don't have to go off. But on Rikers Island, they do. So, and they left something in there that he could hang himself from, and there's no bars up high. There's nothing for him to attach it to. So he attached it to like his bedpost and sat in a crouched position and pulled at it with his throat like this, I want to be, I'm so far beyond whether that's true or not. I know that's not true. Listen, look at me. I know that didn't happen. I know it didn't. So, but who's the guy or who are the guys that get together, they're smoking a cigarette outside the door and they're going, well, what if we said, I want to be a bug on the wall with those guys when these things happen. So what if we said that, who was the Russian crazy guy that was in the Marine Corps? Oswald. What if we say Oswald did it? People would buy it. Russian, looks a little loony. He had a gun in his, we got pictures of him with a gun. Can we make a picture with him with a gun? Good. That's probably like the mob. The mob was working with Oswald. I believe it was Colonel Mustard in the ballroom with the revolver. Yeah, so I want to be in that room, man. I want to be in that room because I could make up some shit and help these guys. I really could. Some of the stuff that they're coming up with, though, is so weak. It's so weak, and the papers are coming out, and the names are coming out, and there's going to be videotapes of grown-ass men having sex with little girls on this island. It's coming out. They're holding them. They got them, I promise. When I tell you things that I say, no, wait. There's going to be some sacrificial lambs on this one. It's going to be scary. So is it possible that this Palm Beach Pete guy is Jeffrey Epstein? I think it's possible, for sure. Because I look at the other stuff that they made up in the room, and they're so stupid how they did it. When they had a picture of him being escorted by guys in Israel, I buy that. I buy Lebanon, Israel, somewhere in South America. I mean, he transferred $550 million 3 days before he killed himself in his cell. But again, when I tell you, I mean, Epstein, imagine if you had that kind of money and you had that kind of pull and you had that many tapes on people that you could sink entire governments and you could ruin people's legacies and you could destroy, entire parties. I want to go back to Palm Beach. All right, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make your nose a little fatter. We're going to puff you up around here. You got to look a little different. You can't just walk out and look exactly the same. You can't ever go to the dentist. You got to go to our guy. You can't blah, blah. And then now here's Palm Beach Pete. Is that possible? Hell yes, it's possible. Hell yes, it's possible. The shit that they're willing to do that they think you'll believe or just turn your back and just not even care anymore because we're so apathetic. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the stuff that they're doing. So, John, I appreciate your call. I'm looking at the pictures of this guy. After reviewing 120 plastic surgery clinics, he discovered records from 2019 showing that Jeffrey Epstein had been a client. The plastic surgeon who performed the procedure reportedly died 2 weeks later in a suspected suicide. So the guy happens to work on Epstein, and then he commits suicide. Like, you know, I've said too that the stuff that I do on my show, I mean, it's a small show. It doesn't have the kind of popularity that like a Joe Rogan or some of these other people have. But do I need to be worried when I expose people for the stupid shit that they do? When I tell you the truth about, 9/11 or this or that one. And really, it appears that I get a lot of head nods. I get like, hey, Baldwin, man, he had a cool show today. He, told us about X, Y, and Z. I just don't know. I'm not doing it to create outrage. I'm doing it to make you think. I'm doing it so you know the facts. But I mean, I guess if I had 50 million viewers and it could change an election, or they'd come knocking at the door. They would. Of course they would. I'd be waiting for them, but they'd come knocking at the door. So I want to read this headline about what's going on in Iran now. I know I've done a number of shows about it, but obviously we're in a war right now, and we're at a place where if things don't change, I have always said that we'll probably see cells here within the United States do things. I mean, they're not going to blow up a whole city or anything like that, but would they use a drone, or would they hit an event? Would they target individuals of power? Yeah, they could do that. They could do that. They have the technology to do it, and they certainly have people waiting, like 9/11 waiting in the country to spring into action, and they'll walk in a room with a bomb in their hand, so a suitcase bomb, a drone, that kind of thing, that's very possible. UN leader warns President Trump, says court could hold him liable for war crimes over the strikes in Iran. So, this is the crazy stuff I'm talking about, that if it's not this guy, because they hate him so much, this president, I look at Obama, very popular. I backed Obama. I didn't back Joe Biden, but when I strayed from the Democratic Party, I strayed because I just no longer saw the party that I grew up with, the party that my father admired, the party that took my attention as early as the Kennedys. Now I wasn't looking at the Kennedys as a voter. I was a little kid, but the legacy of the Kennedys as I grew up was instilled in us through our father. So he was a big influence on him, and he was a Democrat. So you kind of grow up around that, and you grow up to appreciate that more for the people and less about money. I think that was pretty convenient for us too, because we were the people and we didn't have money, so we were kind of in that group. And of course, what the Democratic Party stood for and how they went about doing things are completely different things than back with the Kennedys or in the 70s. It kind of started to change after Carter, I think, after 80. And then, of course, Clinton and his two runs and all the stuff that came out about him and his wife and the stuff that they were responsible for doing, including their impact with Iran. So anyway, everyone wants to hide behind the cloak, the NATO groups behind the cloak, because we are the world power in NATO. We're the one that, China and Russia, let's face it, it's us three. Iran is respectably up there, but they're finding out what happens right now when you get involved in an air war with the United States and a war at sea with their Navy, which they pretty much don't have a Navy anymore. So, and that didn't take long. So if they're going to do things against NATO partners, who is NATO going to lean on? So the fact that the UN is threatening that they're going to call for war crimes, this is a country that if you gave them the potential to have a nuclear weapon, they would not think twice about using it. They would definitely use it. There might be some diplomacy, but against the people that they hate, they stand in the streets for 47 years now or whatever it is, that screaming, kill America, kill the Americans. And yet they come here and we let them come here, so much so that even, not just illegal, but even legally, there's probably enemies of the state here in the country. So we can't let them have that. We're not going to let them have that. There's a bigger game of global chess that's going on with the president right now, where he's seizing certain sea routes and areas of interest that could be used against us by enemies of ours. So Greenland and that whole seaway up there is now going to be ironed down. And we made a deal with the owners of Greenland, and we're going to make sure they can't get that way. Cuba's next. Watch. We're we're going in, we're gonna, and not in a military action. I think that we'll probably be able to make a deal with Cuba, only being 90 miles off the coast of Florida. And it would be good for the Cubans, economically, for sure. They're not in great shape. Anyway, Iran official urges youths to create human chains around the power plants over Trump's strike threats. So the president has said, listen, we need to do something about the seaway, and we need to let the oil tankers flow freely through this. And we're warning you, if you don't do something about unlocking this, we're going to use military force and blow up all your power stations. So again, we're evacuate the power stations, because we're warning you that by this date, we're going to drop bombs on 30 of them. And you're not going to have power anywhere in the country, which is going to create terrible situations for your citizens. But of course, at a power plant, if you warn them you're at risk, if you work in a power plant, don't go to work on this day, because you may not have a job anymore. What did the Iranian leaders say? Iranian officials on Tuesday called on youths in the country to form human chains around the power plants ahead of potential strikes threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump. They're asking children and their teachers and their professors and students and athletes and so on to stand around there and be killed, because they're not willing to make a deal that says we want to be guaranteed you do not enrich uranium and have a nuclear weapon in this country. You're so unstable, your leadership, and we believe that you would use them. We believe that religiously the old guard has said, yes, we will kill America, we will kill Israel, we will kill them all. So that's part of that's like those Christians that scream how much they love Christ, or Buddhists who, meditate about Buddha, or whatever. They have it's their religion. A part of it is to destroy America and kill America. So of course you don't want that person to have a nuclear weapon. If you look at the streets of Iran right now, the younger guard, the teenagers right on through 20s and 30s, are in the streets screaming, please save us. This is terrible, the life that we have here. There is no freedom here. We would be better off in a democracy, and we would encourage a democracy in Iran. We would greatly love to have somebody like that, a young mind, a scholar of some kind. We don't ask them to give up their religion, but we ask them to give up the mindset that the goal in their life is to kill Americans. That we don't want somebody like that in power, obviously. And this is a big country, has big military might in the region, can make things very uncomfortable. But what they have learned is we have capability way beyond what we've seen. You're seeing military strikes on strategic places where, yes, there has been the fallout of that, and innocent civilians have been killed. That happens in any war. Does the president have the right to go in? Go back and look at how many places Barack Obama bombed, and Clinton, and he dropped bombs wherever he decided that he wanted to. He had no congressional approval. He did it in the interest of the United States when he felt there was a threat. And he reminded people in those regions what happens when you poke the bear. If you poke the bear, and you're the one sitting there with a stick in your hand, and you get your arm ripped off, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Seriously, I want to remind you, you need to do that assessment when you see might in front of you, and you run the risk of poking the bear, if you will. Whose fault? You made that choice. If it was important enough to you, if you're defending your children, if you're defending your wife, whatever it is, I understand. I understand. You had to do what you had to do, and you lost your life for doing it. When you're a government and you decide that you're going to stand up to a power, now, short of them invading you, which we gave ample warning, offered over and over again to Iran, please come to the bargaining table, and here's what you would have to do to avoid this. And the leadership, they decided no. That's when you got the cards in your hand and you go, I raise. And you're looking going, this guy has no idea that I have two aces and there's two aces up. He thinks that his king high is it doesn't work that way. If you bluff, or if you decide to play those cards, you played your hand. You played your hand. And so now, sadly, midway through the hand, we're looking going, listen, you don't want to keep putting your chips in. Let me show you one of the cards. Here's one, and you see the ace. And you're still like, well, he doesn't have all of it. I could get another ace. And what happens if You have your cards. You are in control of the hand. Not the people of that country, but the hierarchy and the government officials are in control. And they've been warned. So again, look at what we did. We're going to take out all of your major power plants. You're not going to have electricity. You're not going to have running water. I mean, no traffic lights, safety, people that need, unless you have backup generators at hospitals, people in hospitals are going to be in bad shape too. Please, we don't want to do this. But you are going to come and open up that waterway and let the oil flow, and you are going to meet at the table and guarantee that you're going to agree with the three major factors about nuclear missiles, about enriching uranium, so we're going to secure this area and this country, or else keep getting closer and closer to me, keep coming on to me like this, and I promise you, I'm going to knock you out. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And then you're bumping into the guy and he's going, if you touch me again. So we're doing the same thing. The bully that they want to call us and the big bad guy that they want to call. Nobody else wants to do it. Nobody else is going in there flying sorties and dropping bombs to make these people adhere to the rules. We had to deal with them with Obama. We had to deal with them with Biden. No, we didn't. They weren't honoring the deal. We can prove through satellite photographs that they're enriching uranium. Uranium that they bought with money that Barack Obama freed up and that Hillary Clinton gave them. No, man, not going to work. It's not going to work. So power plants are going to go. And what do the crazy cyclists want to do? They're going to send children to stand as human chains around the power plants, thinking that's going to stop the bombs from falling. It won't stop the bombs from falling. It'd be very unfortunate if they make that choice. Now, of course, the left in this country are going to say that Trump killed children that were standing around the power plants. That's how they're going to see it. And that will be really stupid and untrue. We warned them we were coming. We warned them what we were going to do. We're asking them to come to the table, and they're going to make that choice of what they're going to do, how they respond to that information. We're telling them ahead, here's what's coming. Please evacuate you. Don't send people to work that day. I wouldn't, if I worked in a power plant, I would stay home right now. I would. Because any day now, that place is going to blow up. I want to end today's show on an article I saw that I thought was just the greatest thing I saw on the internet yesterday. So it says, papers, please. And it's the Obama Library demands proof of residency in order to enter. You have to prove you're a resident in order to come to the Obama Library. But critics ask, why not for voting too? So President Obama and his people and the people of the city of Chicago at the Obama Library will insist that you have residency. I don't know if that means U.S. residency, city residency, how it's going to work, but they want proof. They want some form of identification to come walk around his library. But we don't need to have proof of citizenship or residency in order to vote in the U.S. They don't want that. That would be us messing with the rights of people who haven't had a chance. Well, there was a great thing, I think it was Kamala Harris, who said, you'd be forcing them to use a photocopy machine, and not many people that are illegals or live out in the country have access to a photocopy machine. So how would they get their papers in order to prove? And we're prejudicing these people. I mean, does Kamala Harris really think that these people are that stupid, that they've never had to go file for their driver's license, that they don't, they live so far in the country that this is the 1920s, and they got to hitch a ride on the steamship to get into the city, it's so crazy. They'll do anything they can to avoid having to make the election real and accountable. They don't want that. That won't work to their advantage. So I'm going to pray. Lord God, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the blessings. Thank you for my wife, God. Thank you. I praise you, and I love you, Jesus. Easter Sunday just went by, and he has arisen. And we're just waiting for the day, Lord, that you come back, that you make yourself known physically to us on this planet, but I know you're there, and we know you're there, God. We know who you are and what you are. Thank you for your guidance, Lord. And God, I pray for those people that are making the decisions in the Middle East right now, that children are being asked to surround power plants. Please, Lord, don't let that happen. Protect those children. We don't want that to happen here. We just want the threat to be eliminated and people to abide by their agreements that they haven't been doing in the Middle East. And Lord, an extra prayer for our soldiers. I'm on my way on a plane to West Palm Beach to go to an event at Mar-a-Lago and see our great president and see many of our war heroes as we celebrate them at this event in Florida tomorrow and the next couple of days. So Lord, protect us all, protect our soldiers, our men and women, our great fighting forces. We ask you for their protection and an additional shield over their lives. In your name we pray, amen. So, as you know in my prayer just now, I am heading to Florida with my sweetheart. We're going down to meet my sister and my brother-in-law. It's supposed to be rainy down there. We're supposed to play golf. Me and Randy are playing a match. I'll be posting some results if we get out there. I know Randy, he wants to get out there in the rain. He doesn't care. He wants a shot at me. My golf game is just terrible right now. I haven't played because of an injury, so I don't know what I have to offer. But my physical therapist says, I want you to start trying to do things and see if you can't get that shoulder working. So I'm going to be out there probably. If I know Randy, he's going to drag me out in the rain. He's going to drag me out there, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of him. So praise God. Thanks for watching. And if you can, I always forget to say this because I hate asking it. If you can share the show, if you can subscribe to the show, if you can like the show, all that good stuff, it helps us. It helps us continue to make shows. As we branch off and leave this little studio, we're going to be going to a bigger and better studio with multiple cameras. We'll have guests on the show. I know I've promised that before, but it's coming by June-ish, somewhere around there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to trying to make the show better. It's just me right now, talking head. So I'm sure you get bored of that. That would be easily you get bored too. The other day I was in the car and I was, pontificating on something to do with politics or sports or whatever it was. I was just jamming on. We were driving, Deasia and I, my wife and I, and Bat fell asleep in the car and I looked up, I could see him in that mirror to mirror thing. He was out. And so she's kind of like, barely moving her head. And I'm like, do you think so? And I'm watching traffic. I kind of glance over. I said, do you think so? And I had been on a monologue for I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've been on a monologue for, 3 straight minutes of nonstop talking, like the 45 minutes I do on this show. And I finally realized, and I went, hey! And she looked up and then she reached for her phone and lowered. She had her headset in and she was like jamming. She was jamming to some tunes that were going on. Some 90s, 2000s R&B, and she didn't have a clue what I was saying. Not a clue, baby. I know you didn't. And it made me realize, what am I doing? My sweetheart's trying to enjoy this drive and getting down on some music, and I like doing that on the show, because that's me, chattering. Amen. God bless you. See you next week.